Man, I could really go for some old world news right now. Like, I know it's probably not coming out anytime soon, but I just wish there was something, just something I could cover on it.
Well, well, well.
Well, got what I wish for, so let's talk about it. Hello, everyone. Loremaster Sotek here, and apparently Valrak is out here doing Warhammer Fantasy rumors, and I am all here for it. I love Valrak. I love his streams and his community and stuff. So it feels weird essentially doing a reaction video on his content. That's why I'm gonna not show too much of it, because I don't want to be one of those weird channels that covers like someone else's stuff. But in this case, I'll make an exception, and for any other time that he's gonna step his toe into the fantasy arena. But this is pretty interesting stuff. So just to very briefly recap it, though I will have the video down in the description below and the pinned comment, please go watch Valrak's video and then come back and watch this video. That way I don't feel like I'm stealing views or anything. It's very important to me that you go watch his first and also watch all his content. Dude's amazing. But in any event, it seems that we have some tidbits, though once again, as he says in the video, take everything with a grain of salt. These are merely rumors, not anything to be confirmed, but the old world is of enough importance to me that I'm willing to talk about even secondhand rumors at this point. And what he says is pretty interesting. So based on apparently the information he's received, there is playtesting being done on the Tomb Kings, Vampire Counts, Dwarfs, and Bretonia, I believe he said, which is a very interesting mix of factions, and also would kind of make sense for what I'm expecting from the old world, being that we're kind of going to see a heavy focus on the factions that are relevant to where the setting is going to be starting right at the beginning of this new edition or game, whatever you want to call it, which those four factions are a really good starting place of allowing things to be really interesting while not necessarily diving full on into the heavy storyline that we're going to be following with the old world, being the Great War against Chaos. So according to his rumors, we're looking at a couple things, being a 2024 release, which I hope is not true. I hope it's this year, but I do definitely agree that it seems like 10th edition 40K is coming out this year, seeing as they are about to start their big event to end 9th edition, which there is so much reliable information seeing to point to that the big event coming up for 40K is the end of the current edition, which means that 10th edition will be starting probably this summer. And I can't imagine them releasing the old world and 10th edition in the same summer. And it also seems very unlikely they would want to release the old world at any other point of the year, because to my understanding, summer is kind of like their big yearly event. But who knows? Maybe something different could be happening this time. I will say kind of having Horus Heresy and then 10th edition back to back feels a little much, but that's probably just because I don't play those games. So who really cares about my opinion when it comes to that particular stuff? But I will say, even if it is 2024, that's fine. Whenever it comes out, it comes out. I'm really, really looking forward to it either way. I am curious if they're going to have something Games Workshop's been doing a lot right now is they've kind of been releasing box sets in advance. So if you're playing like a new faction that's coming out, for instance, let's talk about the Slaves to Darkness. The Slaves to Darkness are the Age of Sigmar Warriors of Chaos faction. They just got a bunch of new gorgeous miniatures. They got a new Demon Prince, new Chaos Chosen, a bunch of other stuff. They look amazing. And a lot of the new kits seem suspiciously available for Warhammer Fantasy as well. Like many of them fit on the identical or at least similar sized square bases that they used in Fantasy. So it really seems like a lot of the factions are kind of gearing up there to be interchangeable. So it's like, all right, if I have playable Warriors of Chaos, but where I'm going with that is they released this box set, and basically what it did is that it gave you the army book and some stuff from the army early, but like the main Slaves to Darkness line hasn't come out yet. Like if I go online, to my understanding, I still can't buy the actual army book from Games Workshop. If I want to get the Slaves to Darkness army book, I would actually have to go get it from a scalper for another few months until this book eventually releases, which will be at some point, but it's just not right now. That being said, it looks like you could still buy the army set, so I guess I wouldn't have to buy it from a scalper. But, you know, I'd have to drop $200 on a full set. I can't just buy the book yet. And hopefully that'll be coming out sometime in the near future, because I'm actually really looking forward to it. But in any event, I'm curious if they're going to do anything like that with the old world, where maybe the full release as far as the army books and all the rules available for everyone and a bunch of new minis and all that stuff, maybe that will be in 2024, but maybe in 2023 they will release something in advance. You know, they'll release a box set of, like Valrak says in his video, Bretonnia versus Tomb Kings, for instance, where it's a taste of all the new models, and it comes out with a new book that allows people to start playing. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the old world, because it has such a bizarre release ahead of it, because Games Workshop has already publicly confirmed that you will be able to use your old Warhammer Fantasy miniatures in the old world. Now, we're not sure if it's going to be a straight, like, go up in the attic, open up your cases of all of your armies, and then you can just immediately put them on the table and play, or if you're going to have to make adjustments. For instance, are all of my lizardmen going to be the exact same size? So am I going to still have 25mm base Saurus and 20mm base Skinks? Or due to some of the changes that have been happening for, like, Age of Sigmar, where the miniatures in general have been getting slightly larger, it's a bit of a squish to fit some of the new minis on the old bases. So, for instance, am I looking at maybe my Skinks being 25mm base sizes and then my Saurus being 30mm base sizes? Because that would be enough to compensate. I'm really curious to see how that's going to work, because if it truly is that, no, you're going to be able to use all of your old stuff, but we're also going to release new stuff for new players, and also, you know, obviously it's going to, if frankly, it's just going to look significantly better than any of the old models, because, you know, the AOS sculpts are freaking gorgeous. They are so pretty. You know, whether or not you like Age of Sigmar, the gameplay or the lore, I don't think you can argue with any reasonable space that the minis are not absolutely gorgeous. There is at least one mini in the AOS range that'll probably just break your heart with how gorgeous it is. That has happened to me many times. But I'm really curious because if they're just going to release a book that gives you rules for all of your old miniatures, and then they slowly start releasing new miniatures that also start to push the narrative for the old world and, like, expand the new lore, that would be great. Then you don't really need the book to come out with the main full release, right? You can release and be like, hey, here are the rules. Let's let the community play with it a little bit. You know, let's let people start doing tournaments. Let's let people start bringing out all their old minis. Let's see how the dust settles a bit. And then as we're also releasing new minis, we can release, you know, new rules to come with them, and also start making adjustments to the rules, because Games Workshop, at least for Age of Sigmar, has been doing a pretty okay job of releasing rules on a regular basis, doing FAQs and erratas. And, you know, for Age of Sigmar, we get new match play rules every 6 months right now, which drastically changes the game. But in my experience, they've been good changes. Like, the game stays competitive, and it makes it where a singular build tends not to just dominate for months. Usually they're, you know, at most they'll be really, really solid for 6 months, but the meta is usually constantly evolving and shifting because there's new armies coming out and people are figuring out new ways to play and all this other stuff. But in any event, I don't want to go too much longer. I just wanted to make a quick thing to say, A, you should go watch Valrak's video, and B, let me know what you think. I will say that if his predictions are accurate, the only thing I'm bummed about would be it releasing a year later than I expected. I'm really genuinely, even with this information, still expecting something to come out this year. Even if it's just a book that lets us play the game and a single limited box set that's like, hey, here's Bretonnia versus Tomb Kings. Here's the new minis. You get access to them. You know, there's not really any big narrative info. There's a little narrative info with it, but it's not like the whole setting yet. but here's a taste. Here's your first hit to see if we can get you all addicted on it. And then once we get to 2024, they start doing the real release where we get like the full game coming out, and you start seeing the Empire factions and the different Chaos factions, and then we actually can buy all of the Bretonnia and Tomb King stuff separately as individual units, because they really enjoy Games Workshop's current business model, which I don't hate this, but I also don't like it, is that they will release a set of models that are new, and you basically have to buy them in a really expensive set for about 3 to 6 months. And then after that point, though sometimes longer, and then after that point, they come out as their own individual boxes that are notably cheaper. But unfortunately, that's just kind of their business model, but it seems to be working very well for them. And it also doesn't mean any of the models stay exclusive, so I don't really care that much. But obviously, we'll have to see what happens. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about if Bretonnia and the Tomb Kings were the first ones out the gate. Would that be awesome in your opinion, or would you hate that? For me, I will say, for me personally, I think that's the best possible thing they could do. Coming out with Bretonnia and Tomb Kings first, I think would be a stroke of genius, because they are the two factions that have no descendants. And by that, I mean that they are the two factions that there's not a single miniature from their ranges that is still sold currently by Games Workshop, and their aesthetic is also basically non-existent in the modern mini lineups. The Tomb Kings, technically, as far as their theming is concerned, of being like a more elite skeletal focused army, they do have the descendants in the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, but the Bone Reapers are very different in almost every other way. They are an army of skeletons that can be relatively elite, and they do have some constructs, and that's about as far as it goes. The Ossiarch Bone Reapers are way more melee focused and they're much more infantry focused than the Tomb Kings were. The Tomb Kings had significantly more range. Obviously, they had lots of chariots, and they had the very heavy Egyptian themes. And the Ossiarch Bone Reapers do not have any of that. But and then the Bretonnia just has no descendant at all in Age of Sigmar. There is not a single hardcore knight army, which is super weird for a fantasy setting. You figure if you're gonna have a fantasy setting for armies, one of the first things you do is you make a knight army of human knights, I should say. Like, you do have Slaves to Darkness, Archaons, the Varangard are awesome, but they're not anything like Bretonnia. Like, they're knights, but they're very large, and they ride like horrifying chaos creatures, not horses. They're kind of knights in the elves, but they're not heavy knights, and once again, they're not human knights. The Stormcast Eternal kind of have knights, but they don't ride horses as well, and they're also way bigger, and they're Sigmarines. Though, don't get me wrong, I love Stormcast Eternals. I just like to make fun of them. But they ride on either Griffin creature hybrids or Dracoliths or dragons. They don't ride there's no like cool, awesome, regular human dude on a horse. There's no Reiksguard, there's no Empire Knights, there's no Bretonnian Knights. That niche is very unfulfilled. So I would love for Tomb Kings and Bretonnia to be the first thing to come out, because they both pop. Like, they're very exciting armies. They have tons of fans, and they are not armies that you can just go pick up an Age of Sigmar army and be like, I am now playing fantasy. If you want to play Lizardmen, you buy Seraphon. Hey, you're playing Lizardmen. You want to play dwarfs or the Empire, or even like a little bit kind of wood elves or high elves, you're like, oh, I'll just pick up Free Cities. Boom, I'm playing these armies, at least to an extent. Oh, you want to play Vampire Counts? You pick up the Soulblight Gravelords. Boom, you're playing Vampire Counts. So starting with these two, I do think would be the best decision. So like I said, let me know what y'all think. I promise I won't make this a normal thing to be reacting to other people's content. I don't like to do that. I'll have a lot of my own stuff coming out soon, but there is one particular thing that must be done before we're doing regular stuff here soon, which many of you probably know what it is, and more on that later. But hope you're all taking care. I have been very busy taking care of a new puppy. You probably have seen posts about it on Twitter or whatever. I also have a lot of content going on my secondary channel. I'll link a post to that down below if you want to check it out. I've been streaming on Twitch a lot, and I've been uploading all the VODs over there, which is unfortunately rather time consuming, but I do think it's worth it. We're doing quite well on our Witcher 3 playthrough, but I've also been uploading a recent Chaos Gate Demon Hunters playthrough that I lost, so you can watch me lose my shit as I get my ass kicked. And also, I am uploading a Krokgar Legendary Ultimate Crisis playthrough that I'm doing that's been pretty interesting. So thank you all again for being here. Happy New Year. Hope you're doing well. Me and Sadie wish you the best, and I'll see you around. Thanks for watching.